my state of mind was not at its best. The only question I started asking, or the only question I was asking myself was, why me? Ever asked that question before? Why me? That was the question in my mind. Why me? I'm a nice guy. I do nice things. Why are bad things happening to me? And then I started asking myself, why do bad things happen to good people? There are a lot of bad people out there who are having a really good life. Why are bad things happening to good people? And that led to a different question. And that next question was, what is the purpose of life? And that's a very dangerous question to ask. And I started asking that question, what is the purpose of life? Not to the point where I didn't want to live. That thought never crossed my mind, but I started asking what's the purpose of life because I had no motivation whatsoever. Zero sense of motivation to step out of bed to even go to work. And because I started asking myself, what's the point? What's the point of having a career? What's the point of earning a lot of money? What's the point of falling in love if nothing in this world lasts? If it does not last, why go after it in the first place? Right? So these were the kind of questions that was creeping into my mind. And the longer I asked those questions, the stronger the negative emotions that was attached to that question became. So here's a little thing. Questions play a big part of who we are and how we shape our lives. Right? We have the ability to shape our life in any way that we want to shape it. That's within us. We have that power, we have that ability, we have that capability, but we've got to start asking the right questions. Because the moment you start asking the wrong questions, it leads us down the wrong path. And the question, why me, does not answer anything. Why me only leads you to that experience that you're feeling, you're experiencing, and that experience will only trigger the negative emotions that is attached to that experience. Why me answers anything. The question that we should all be asking ourselves is, what must I do next? Because this is the question that leads you towards being a solution finder. So for me, that was my awakening. Because one day I looked in the mirror and I didn't like what I saw in the mirror. This negative, pessimistic person that didn't even have much friends left. Because people don't want to hang out with negative people. You know who hangs out with negative people? More negative people. Because birds of a feather flock together. And if you've heard the law of attraction, you attract what you project. If you're projecting negativity, you're going to attract just more negativity into your life. Be it experiences, be it people, be it results. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, hey, I don't like who I see. Because that's not me. I'm not that person. I'm allowing circumstances and experiences to consume me. And that was not making me productive. Neither was it making me any closer towards finding clarity in life. So I started telling myself, I looked at myself and I say, Jit, what is stopping you from being happy? And we all want to be happy, right? Yep. So I asked that question, what is stopping me from being happy? And the answer was me. I was the one that's stopping it. It wasn't the lack of options in terms of career. It wasn't the lack of financial stability. It wasn't that marriage that came crumbling down. These were all just experiences. These are circumstances. This is life. Things happen in life. But the only thing that was stopping me from really being happy was myself, because I allowed myself to be in that spot without moving forward. So one of the biggest lies in this world, one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves is that there is not enough time. Because and every one of us have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. not a second lesser, not a second more. And if we want more time in life, that's an unsolvable problem. Let me tell you that right now. Having more time in life is unsolvable because you can't even get a second more than what you have. So the problem isn't a lack of time. The problem is not knowing how to manage time. Who goes to the gym here regularly? Just raise your hands and show me. Who goes to the gym at least about 2 or 3 times a week? One gentleman there, pick up his hand. Who else goes to the gym? All right? So look around at these people who've got their hands up. Don't they look like they go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week? You know, they look it. You know, they see the part because you can see it. And then you also know who don't go to the gym or who don't go for that run. You know, you can see it. Yeah? And normally, those who don't make it an initiative to work out are the ones who always want to, but they just don't have the time. Right? So, not having time is an unsolvable problem. Not knowing how to manage time is a solvable problem. So, the blueprint for success is first you need to have a goal, set a goal. You want to know where you're at, you want to know where you want to be at, you want to know what are the resources that you have, what are the resources that you don't have, and most importantly, what's holding you back. You want to identify that. Once you have a goal, step 2 is create a plan. Right? This is the strategy. Creating a plan is very easy. You can talk to people, you can read about it, you can hire a coach, or you can just Google how to do it. Today with the internet, a lot of information is so readily available. So creating a plan is very easy. Third step is the hardest step, which is executing the plan. Because if you create a plan without execution, it always remains as a plan. Step 4, break through and persevere. Like a child that's learning how to walk, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. They've got to break through, create little breakthroughs. 1 step becomes 2 steps. 2 steps become 3 steps, becomes 4 steps. These are all little breakthroughs, and it's perseverance. You've got to persevere through challenges. Because as dark as the night gets, as stormy as the rain is, skies will eventually clear up, and the sun will eventually rise. It's a natural order of things. But you've got to persevere through the hard parts so that you enjoy the rewards at the end of it. So step number 4 was break through and persevere. We've got to persevere through the challenges. And every point of time when we find that, hey, you know what? We don't have the answers. The question should be, what must I do next? If you don't have the answers, what must you do next? Talk to someone who has the answer. Google for the answer. Read a book with the answers. Do whatever it takes to find the answers. Right? So step number 5, which is the final step, is review, reflect, and celebrate. Review, reflect, and celebrate. And I want to put more emphasis on celebrate, because this is also a part that a lot of people lack. They don't celebrate success. They find that, hey, maybe the achievement was a small little achievement that you feel that it does not deserve a celebration. But remember this, we are creatures of habit, right? If over time we start discounting our achievements, no matter how small it is, we are training ourselves to discount all forms of achievement. Over time, how excited would we be to achieve something that we are no longer excited about? Because it's a trained process, it's emotions. Right? So we've got to always celebrate our success. And celebration does not always mean the biggest, grandest party or the most expensive restaurant where you're having a 10-course meal that costs thousands of dollars. Celebrating success could simply be looking yourself in the mirror, giving yourself a pat on the shoulder, and telling yourself, hey, job well done. And acknowledge that you achieved what you set out to achieve. You've got to train yourself to recognize your achievements. Okay? So this is the 5 steps of success. Set a goal, create a plan, execute the plan, break through and persevere, review, reflect, and celebrate. Most success gurus out there, or most success books will always tell you, in life, if you want to succeed, you must first fail. I totally disagree with that. Because my take is this: why do you need to fail to succeed? Yes, a lot of success stories are born out of failure. But that's because that failure has left that person in a point or in a position where it's literally do or die. I either change my life around right now, or I just call it quits and this is the end for me. And because of that, people tend to do whatever that's necessary to survive. Survival is an instinct that we are programmed with from the time we were born. And because of that, when we are at a corner, for most people, the survival instinct is, hey, I've got nothing to lose anymore. I might as well do whatever that's necessary. This is the same person who at one point of time felt they could not do it, they are not good to do it, they are not good enough, they don't have the skills, they don't have the resource, but when pushed to a corner, the survival instinct kicks in and they take action. So that is the reason why a lot of success stories are born out of failure. But does that mean that one who has not experienced failure needs to go and find failure in order to succeed? The answer is no. You can succeed without failing. And how do you do that? Is you learn from the people who have failed. Find out what are the potholes that you must avoid. What are the bad roads that you must avoid? What are the dangerous paths that you must avoid? Because then you don't need to fall into the same hole. You can avoid that altogether and take that express highway. Two of the biggest fear that limits human potential is the fear of rejection and the fear of failure. This is the two main fears that stops us from achieving. Failure and fear of rejection. Because none of us want to feel rejected, and most importantly, none of us want to fail. We don't want to fail in life. At least we don't want to feel as if we have failed in life. So if any point of time we find that, hey, you know what, if I do this, it may lead towards failure, we tend not to do it, and avoid failure altogether. Because failure triggers strong emotions. Failure triggers very strong emotions. But having said that, if you were to look up the definition of failure, failure simply means a lack of success. A lack of success simply means an unsuccessful attempt. That's what failure is, an unsuccessful attempt. So if you tell yourself right now, compare the with unsuccessful attempt, which has lower intensity of emotions? Attempts, right? Because what does unsuccessful attempt mean? Unsuccessful attempt simply mean you are now given the opportunity to refine the strategy to try again with a better probability of success. That's what unsuccessful attempts mean. Failure means, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Unsuccessful attempts mean, hey, I'm now given the opportunity to try again with a better strategy to enhance my probability of success. And if you try it, and if it's another unsuccessful attempt, guess what? Hey, it's a new opportunity. Guess what? If it doesn't work, hey, it's a new opportunity. If you were to just reframe your thoughts, just like that, there will never be failures in life. Just multiple opportunities to succeed. Just like the child who's learning how to walk. Every time that child falls is a new opportunity to walk. And the child never gives up. The reason why the child does not give up is the child has not conditioned himself to accept failure. Because failure is a perception. Failure is a perception. Okay? And I'm going to get to there's no such thing as the perfect plan. Because the only way to find the perfect plan is to take that first step to execute the plan, to find out what works and what does not work, learn from it, refine it, and then make it better. But if you're waiting to execute the plan only when you have the perfect plan, it's not going to work. Because executing the plan is what leads to perfecting the plan. So if you were to look at it, children, when they're learning how to walk, the day that they take and stand up and the day they take their first step, is that the day that they just start walking right away? And hey, mom, hey, dad, uncle, how are you? Does that happen? No. What happens? They take that first step, and more often than not, they tumble and they fall. What do? They just get up and they try again. What happens at the second try? More often than not, they fall again. And then they pick themselves up and they learn to balance themselves better and try again. As adults, if we were in the room, within that vicinity, looking at a child trying to learn, and when we see a child falling, what do we tell that child? Get up and try again. And then the child falls again. We tell the child the same thing, get up and try again. Is there any point of time where you look at the child and you say, boy, I don't think you're going to walk, stop trying? No, we would never tell that to the child as well, because it's always about encouraging the child to be better, telling that child that, hey, you know what, you can do it, you just got to keep trying. So we have this wisdom, we have this insight. Problem is, we don't often apply it when it comes to ourselves. We try it once, we try it twice, we find, hey, you know what, this does not work. I think I failed at this. And then we say, you know what, I accept this as failure, it doesn't work. Right? So we've got to be more encouraging to ourselves, just as how we would be more encouraging towards others. Right? So there's no such thing as a perfect plan unless you execute the plan to find out what works and what does not work.